Let's begin with ecosystem interactions. Habitat is a place where living things live, typically a shelter. Niche is the role of the living things in the environment. It has three parts: finding foods, shelter, and mate. So, sa ecosystem interactions po, yung habitat po, yun po yung place or lugar kung saan namumuhay yung living things na nagsisilbing shelter. Yan naman po sa niche, yun po yung role ng mga living things sa environment. Meron po siyang three main parts. Yun nga po yung finding foods, shelter, and next, community interactions. Community is when organisms eat the same food. Predation is when one organism eats another. Symbiosis is when two species lives together. Community interactions. So yun po sa community is yun po yung community po is when an organism or organisms eat the same food, or yung kapag yung organism po ay kumakain ng magkamukhang pagkain. Sa predation naman po is yung kapag ang organisms kinain is when organisms eat one another. So yun nga po, predation, meron niyang predator and prey. So basically yung predator po yung kumakain and yung prey yung kakainin. So ganun lang po yung concept ng predation. Symbiosis is when two species lives together. So yun nga po sa symbiosis is kapag yung two species or two or more species lives together in the same place or same habitat. Three types of symbiosis. Number one, commensalism is a type of relationship where one of the organisms benefits greatly from the symbiosis. The other is not helped, but is not harmed or damaged from the relationship. In other words, this is a one-sided symbiotic relationship. Number two, parasitism is when one organism benefits from the relationship but the expense of the other. The organism may live at the other's body or on its surface. Number three, and the last, mutualism is a close relationship where both parties benefit. Both species will benefit from the relationship, and many of these relationships are long-lasting. So, dun po sa three types of symbiosis. Sa commensalism, yun po yung type ng relationship where yung other po ay nagbe-benefit and yung other po ay hindi nagbe-benefit, pero hindi po siya na-harm or na-apektuhan. Sa parasitism naman po, yun po yung relationship na kung saan yung other ay nagbe-benefit pero yung other ay na-apektuhan or na-harm niya. Doon naman po sa mutualism, yun po yung relationship na kung saan po parehas po silang nag-benefit. Food chain and food web. Food chain refers to the linear representation of events in an ecosystem where one living organism eats another organism. A food web is detailed interconnecting diagram that shows the overall food relationship between organisms in a particular environment. Simply, a food web is made up interconnected food chain. So, yun nga po. Sa food web po, yun po yung nagpapakita ng linear representation ng food relationship between organisms. Yun sa naman po, sa food web, yun po yung nagpapakita ng interconnected food chains na nagpapakita po ng overall food relationship between organisms in a particular environment. So, dun po sa food chain, linear lang po siya. Dun po sa food web, interconnected. Classification of animals according to their diet. Carnivores are those that feed with meats. Example, lion, snake, sharks, dog, etc. Herbivores are plant eaters. Example, cow, goat, horse, panda, etc. Omnivores are animals that include both meats and plants on their diet. Example, human and etc. So, classification of animals according to their diet. So, yun po, yung carnivores po. Ayun po yung mga animals na kung saan sila po yung kumakain ng meat or karne. Doon po sa herbivores, sila po yung mga animals na kumakain naman po ng mga plants. Doon naman po sa omnivores, sila po yung mga animals na kumakain pareho ng meat or karne, ng karne at ng halal. Classification of living things. In science, the practice of classifying organisms is called taxonomy. Taxis means arrangement and nomos means method. The modern taxonomic system was developed by the Spanish botanist Carlos Carl Linnaeus 1708-1788. Yun nga po, yung sa science po is yung tawag po sa pagka-classify ng mga organisms is called as taxonomy. Na-develop po or na-formulate po ni Carlos Carl Linnaeus na isang Swedish botanist. Carlos Carl Linnaeus 1708-1788. He used simple physical characteristics of organisms to identify and differentiate between different species and is based around genetics. Linnaeus developed a hierarchy of groups for taxonomy to distinguish differentiate levels of similarity. Each classifying group, called taxon or taxa, is subdivided into other groups. To remember the order, it is helpful to use a mnemonic devices. So, yun nga po, si Carl Linnaeus, ginamit po niya yung physical characteristics ng organisms para po identify yung different species, and nakabase din po siya around sa genetics. Yun po, si Linnaeus nag-develop po siya ng hierarchy or hierarchy of groups for taxonomy para po ma-distinguish or ma-differentiate yung levels of similarity between organism na tinawag nga po kalauna na taxon or taxa, na subdivided po into other groups. Yun nga po, para ma-remember po yung order, it is useful or helpful na gumamit po tayo ng mnemonic devices. The taxa in hierarchical order: domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. The three domains: Archaebacteria, any group of single-celled prokaryotic organisms but with biochemistry and RNA markers that are distinct from bacteria, receiving the name Archaebacteria, but this term has fallen out of use. Bacteria or eubacterial. Bacteria are defined as organisms that are microscopic, unicellular, independently reproducing, and mostly free-living, briefly called the eubacteria or true bacteria. Eukarya or eukaryote encompasses most of the living things. The kingdom protists, fungi, plantae, and animalia fall under this category. So, dun po sa 3 domains, yung archaea po sa bacteria, halos wala pong pinagkaiba. Yung archaea lang po ay merong biochemistry and RNA markers na naging distinct po siya, na naging way para maging distinct siya sa bacteria. Doon naman po sa eukarya or eukaryote, ina-encompass po niya yung most of the living things, yung kingdom protists po, yung mga fungi po, plantae, animalia, yun po, nagpa-fall po siya under this category.
The sixth kingdom. The first one is Animalia, that one of the basic group of living things that comprises either all the animals or all the multicellular animals. The second one is Plantae, the plant kingdom that contains all the planets on this earth. The third one is Protists, single called organisms of the kingdom. Fourth one is fungi, any member of the kingdom of living things. Example is mushroom, molds, and rot.
Eubacteria. Eubacteria is one of the 6 kingdom classification. It is made of small cells and can all easily stain. They can be motile or non-motile, and the motile forms are frequently characterized by the presence of numerous flagellae. So some characteristic of eubacteria are they are unicellular, prokaryotic microscopic cells. Their cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan or moraine. Last is archaea or archaebacteria. This bacteria lives in extreme environments such as salt lake and so on. They have a unique characteristic that can only found in them, like an unusual lipids that are not found in other organisms. The difference of archaea and eubacteria are their cell walls, which lacks peptidoglycan. The next topic is the 9 major animal phylum, with a total of 36. First is phylum Porifera, sponge, which approximately have 10,000 species. Sponges are aquatic invertebrates so as live in aquatic habitat. Sponges are considered to be one of the simplest animals, primarily because their bodies are not organized in organ systems. They can be found in depths of ocean as great as 5 kilometers. They are also permanently attached to rocks and other submerged objects. So, second is phylum Cnidaria, which approximately have 11,000 species. It also an aquatic invertebrate. Its body symmetry is radial. They are characterized by stinging cells called cnidoblasts and a cavity called coelenterate, justifying the name Cnidaria or coelenterata. Some examples of Cnidaria are jellyfish like moon jelly and box jelly, corals, sea anemones, hydras, and so on. Third is phylum Platyhelminths, aka flatworms, which approximately have 25,000 species. Flatworms are unsegmented, bilaterally symmetrical worms that lack asylum or asylumate, but that do have 3 germ layers. Some forms are free-living but many are parasitic. Its examples is tapeworms. So, fourth is phylum Nematoda, which approximately have 80,000 species. It's also called roundworms. Nematoda or nematodes are among the most abundant animals on Earth. They occur as parasites in animals and plants or as free-living forms in soil, freshwater, marine environments, and so on. Based on research has been conducted on the parasitic forms, most of them have some medical, veterinary, or economic importance. It also have bilateral body symmetry, and its example is Ascaris. Fifth is phylum Annelida, which approximately have 17,000 species, also called segmented worm. Any member of a phylum of invertebrate animals that are characterized by the possession of a body cavity or coelom, movable bristles or setae, and a body divided into segments by transverse rings or annulations from which they take their name. It's have bilateral body symmetry and the example is Earth. 6 is phylum Mollusca, which have approximately 85,000 species, one of the largest phyla which composed by many diverse organisms. It's characterized by its soft body and bilateral symmetry, and some examples are shellfish, octopus, snails, and so on. And 7th is phylum Echinodermata, which approximately have 17,000 species. It's characterized by its spiky skins and radial symmetry, and can be found at the bottom of the floor. Some examples are starfishes, sea lilies, sea urchins, and others. So, 8 is phylum Arthropoda, which approximately have 3,700,000 species. Arthropods form the phylum Arthropoda. It's invertebrate animals having an exoskeleton, a segmented body, and pair-jointed appendage. It is the most diverse, that's why it is also most successful, that living in a great range of habitats. Some examples are crabs, spider, meats, and so on. And number 9 or last is phylum Chordata, which approximately 43,700 species. The phylum Chordata consists of animals with a flexible rod supporting their dorsal or backside, has jointed appendage, and its bilateral symmetry. The phylum names derives from the Greek root word chord, meaning string, and most species within the phylum Chordata are vertebrates or animals with backbones. Some examples are lobsters, crabs, spiders, meats, and so on.
Classes under phylum Chordata. The first one is class Adnata, which are the lampreys. They do not have jaws and are L-shaped prey on fish, and have larval forms which are different from the adults. Second one is class Amphibia, are frogs, newts, and salamanders. They were the first land vertebrates, especially go through metamorphosis, and they have no eggshells. The third one is class Aves, is the birds. A characteristic of bird that is they have feathers. Birds are warm-blooded. For example of this is penguin, birds, and eagle, and many more. The fourth one is class Chondrites, which include sharks and rays, and they have cartilage skeleton, not bone. They are buoyant like other fish, so they must swim or sink. They are cold-blooded. The fifth one is class Mammalia, is the mammals. Key characteristic of mammal are the presence of fur, hair, and mammary glands derived from modified sweat glands, which produce milk for the young. Mammals are warm-blooded like us. And the sixth one is class Astetes, is the bony fish, which is the most numerous of all vertebrate classes. They are cold-blooded. Their swim bladder is an air sac used to control buoyancy. Thus, unlike the sharks, bony fish can hold it still. The last one is class Reptilia, which is snakes, turtle, crocodile, and lizard. They have scales that dry to touch, and they have a egg finished with leathery shells. Reptiles are mostly cold-blooded